Fourth principle: the future events that the most noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, predicted were not isolated incidents. He rather predicted general and recurring events in a particular way. Those events, however, had many sides to them, and each time he mentioned them, he explained a different side. Then the narrator of the hadith combined all of those sides, and they sometimes appear contrary to reality. There are, for example, varying narrations concerning the Mahdi, each with different details and descriptions. However, as was explained in a section of the 24th word, the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, gave the tidings, relying on revelation of a Mahdi who would come in every century to preserve the moral of the believers, help them not to fall into despair in the face of disasters, and link the hearts of the believers with the people of the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, who constitute a luminous line in the world of Islam. Every century has seen a Mahdi from the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, or several, similar to the great Mahdi who is promised to come at the end of time. One of the Abbasid caliphs, even, who were said to be descendants of the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, was a Mahdi who possessed many of the great Mahdi's characteristics. In this way, the attributes of the Mahdi's deputies and of the spiritual popes who were Mahdis, who were to pursue the great Mahdi and were samples and forerunners of him, were confused with the attributes of the great Mahdi himself, and the narrations concerning him were seen to conflict with one another. Fifth principle: since none knows the unseen save God, the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, could not know it himself. God Almighty communicated to him the tidings of the unseen, and he made them known. And since God Almighty is all-wise and compassionate, his wisdom and mercy require that most of the matters of the unseen be veiled or obscure. For in this world, events disagreeable to human beings are numerous. Prior knowledge of their happening would be painful. It is for this reason that death and the appointed hour of death are left obscure, and the calamities that are to befall human beings remain behind the veil of the unseen. Again, as a result of his wisdom and mercy, God Almighty did not entirely or in detail inform his messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, about the dreadful events that would befall his family and companions after his demise, in order not to hurt his extremely tender compassion for his community and his firm affection for his family. Note, for example, he was not made to know about Aisha's taking part in the battle of the camel, so that his deep love and affection toward her, may God be pleased with her, would not be hurt. He said, in fact, to his wives, "I wish I knew which one of you will be involved in that incident." Later, he was apparently made aware of it to a slightly greater extent, as he once said to Ali, "May God be pleased with him. Some event will take place between you and Aisha." For certain divine purposes, he made some of these significant events known to him, but not in all their awesomeness. As for pleasant events, he communicated them to the messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, sometimes in outline and sometimes in detail, and the messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, in turn made them known to his companions. Thus, those tidings were accurately transmitted to us by the scholars of Hadith, who were at the height of piety, justice, and truthfulness, and who feared very much the warning of the Hadith. "Whoever knowingly tells a lie concerning me should prepare for a seat in hell," and that of the Qur'anic verse, "Who then does more wrong than the one who utters lie concerning God?" Sixth principle: Although some qualities and aspects of the most noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, have been described in books of history and biography, most of those qualities relate to his humanness. But in reality, the spiritual personality and the sacred nature of that blessed person were so exalted and luminous that the qualities described in books fall short of his high stature. For, according to the rule, the cause is like the doer. Every day, even at this moment, the amount of the worship performed by all his community is being added to the record of his perfections. He is also every day the object of the countless supplications of his vast community, in addition to being the object of infinite divine mercy in an infinite fashion and with an infinite capacity to receive. He was, indeed, the result and the most perfect fruit of the universe, the interpreter and the beloved of the Creator of the cosmos. Hence, his true nature in its entirety and the truth of all his perfections cannot be contained in the human qualities recorded in books of history and biography. Certainly, the stature of a blessed person with the archangels Gabriel and Michael as two aides de camp at his side in the battle of Badr is not to be found in the form of a person bargaining with a Bedouin in the marketplace over the price of a horse, bringing forth Khuzaymah as his sole witness. In order not to proceed in error, one should raise his head beyond the ordinary qualities of the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, that pertain to his participation in the human state, and behold instead his true nature and luminous stature that pertain to the rank of messengership. Otherwise, one will either show him irreverence or instill doubts in oneself. Listen to the following comparison for an understanding of this mystery. Suppose that a date seed was planted in the earth, has fruited and become a large, fruit-bearing tree, and is still continuing to grow taller and broader. Or that a peahen's egg was incubated, a chick was hatched from it, and became a beautifully adorned peacock, gilded all over with the imprint of power, and is still growing bigger and more beautiful. Now there exist qualities, properties, and precisely balanced elements that belong to the seed and the egg, but are not as great and significant as those of the tree and the bird that emerge from them. So, while describing the qualities of the tree and the bird together with those of the seed and the egg, one should turn one's attention from the seed to the tree and from the egg to the bird, so that one's reason may find the description acceptable. Otherwise, if you claim, "I have obtained thousands of dates from a seed," or "this egg is the king of all birds," you will invite others to contradict and deny your words. The humanness of God's messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, may be likened to the seed or egg, and his essential nature, illumined with the function of messengership, to the tuba tree of paradise, or to the birds of paradise. His essential nature is, moreover, continually moving to greater perfection. That is why, when you think of the man who disputed in the market with a Bedouin, you should also turn the eye of imagination to that luminous being who, riding the riffraff, leaving Gabriel behind, reached the distance of 2 bow strings. Otherwise, you will either be disrespectful towards him or fail to convince the evil commanding soul. Fifth sign. We will cite in this sign a few examples of hadiths concerning the matters of the unseen. It has come down to us through a chain of transmission the authenticity of which is agreed upon, that the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, declared from the pulpit in the presence of his companions, "This my grandson Hassan is a master of man by means of whom God will reconcile 2 great groups." 40 years later, when the 2 largest armies of Islam met each other, Hassan made peace with Muawiyah and thus fulfilled the prophecy of his noble grandfather, upon whom be blessings and peace. According to another authentic narration, the messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, said to Ali, "You will fight the perfidious, the just, and the deviator," thus predicting the battles of the Camel and Siffin and that fought against the Harijis. He again said to Ali, when he was displaying love for Zubayr, "He will fight against you, but will be in the wrong." He also said to his wives, "One among you will take charge of a rebellion, many around her will be killed, and the dogs will bark all around her." All these certain and authentic traditions are the proven predictions of the struggles of Ali against Aisha, Zubayr, and Talha during the battle of the Camel, against Muawiyah at Siffin, and against the Harijis at Harabra and Nahrawan. The messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, also informed Ali about a man who would stain Ali's beard with the blood of his own head. Ali knew the man. It was Abdurrahman bin Muljam the Khariji. He also mentioned a man marked with a peculiar sign, Zul Sudiyah. When the man was found among the dead of the Harijis, Ali showed him as a proof of the rightness of his cause, announcing at the same time the miracle of the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace. According to another authentic tradition related by Salama and others, the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, also predicted that Hussein would be killed at Taf, Karbala. 50 years later, the painful event took place as predicted. He also repeatedly predicted that, after his demise, his family would face death, calamities, and exile, and gave some details. What he had predicted later came true exactly. In this connection, a question may be asked. Although Ali, with his extraordinary bravery and profound knowledge in addition to his kinship to God's messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, greatly deserved to be caliph, why did he not precede the others in holding the caliphate? And why did Islam experience such disorder during his caliphate? Answer: a supreme spiritual Paul from the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, is reported as having said, "The noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, had desired that Ali be caliph, but it was made known to him from the unseen that the will of God Almighty was different. He then abandoned his desire, submitting himself to God's will." One of the reasons God's will was different could have been that after the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, demise, when the companions were more than ever in need of alliance and unity, if Ali had taken the leadership, it would most probably have aroused in many persons and tribes a tendency to compete because of his uncompromising nature and fearless, ascetic, heroic, and independent character, and wider known courage, as was the case during his caliphate, and divisions among the believers would have resulted. Another reason for the delay of Ali's caliphate was the following. At the time of his caliphate, the Muslim community, which had expanded rapidly through the intermingling of many tribes and peoples, possessed such traits as reflected the opinions of the 73 sects that the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, had predicted would evolve in due time. Therefore, in the face of such disturbances, someone was needed with the wondrous strength, courage, respectability, and sagacity of Ali, who had behind him the force of the respected Hashimis and the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, so that he could resist the sedition. And indeed, he did so, in a fashion conformable to the prediction of the Prophet, who had said to him, "I have fought for the revelation of the Qur'an, you will fight for its interpretation." A further reason for this delay was that without Ali, worldly rule would most probably have caused the Umayyad kings to go completely astray. However, being confronted with Ali and the Prophet's family, and having to appear equal to them and to preserve their prestige before the Muslims, all the leaders of the Umayyad dynasty, even if not they themselves in any event, due to their encouragements and recommendations, their followers and supporters worked with all their strength to preserve and disseminate the truths of Islam and belief and the Qur'anic decrees. Thus, they produced thousands of punctilious interpreters of the law and authorities on hadith and saints and prophet scholars. Had they not been faced by the strong religiosity, sainthood, and virtuousness of Ali and of the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, it is possible that the Umayyads would have gone completely astray, as happened at the end of their rule, and as did the Abbasids. It might also be asked, why did the Islamic Caliphate not remain in the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, since they were the most deserving and fitted for it? The answer: worldly rule is deceptive, and the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, had been appointed to preserve the decrees of the Qur'an and the truths of Islam. Not to be deceived by power, the one who was to hold it and the caliphate had to be as sinless as a prophet, or as pure-hearted and unworldly as the four rightly guided caliphs, Umar bin Abdulaziz, or the Mahdi of the Abbasids. In fact, the caliphate of the Fatimid dynasty, which was founded in the name of the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, in Egypt, and the rule of the Almohads in Africa, and the Safavid dynasty in Iran, showed that worldly rule was not suitable for the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, family, for it caused them to neglect their primary duty, the protection of religion and the service of Islam. When, on the other hand, they gave up worldly rule, they served Islam and the Qur'an brilliantly and successfully. Now, see, of the poles of sainthood descended from Hassan, especially the four poles, and above all Abdul Qadir Geylani, and the Imams of Hussein's line, especially Zain al-Abidin and Jafar al-Sadiq, each became like a spiritual Mahdi, dispelled wrongdoing and spiritual darkness, and spread the light of the Qur'an and the truths of belief. In so doing, each showed that he was a true heir of his noble forefather. It may then be asked, what was the wisdom in the awesome and bloody dissension that was visited on blessed Islam and the luminous age of bliss? And what aspect of mercy was there in it? For they did not deserve such distress. The answer: just as a heavy spring rainstorm stirs into action the potentialities of all the varieties of plants, seeds, and trees, and causes them to develop, so each blossoms in its particular way and performs the duties inherent in its nature, so too the dissension visited on the companions and their successors stirred their potentialities into action, which were all different and like seeds. It spurred them on, exclaiming, Islam is in danger, fire, fire. It put fear into all the groups and made them hasten to protect Islam. According to its abilities, each of the groups shouldered one of the numerous different duties of the Islamic community and strove in utmost earnestness, some working for the preservation of the prophetic hadith, some for the preservation of the Sharia, some for the preservation of the truths of belief, some for the preservation of the Qur'an, and so on. Each group undertook a particular duty. They strove to perform the duties of Islam. Numerous multicolored flowers opened. Through the storm, seeds were cast to all the corners of the extensive world of Islam. Half the earth was transformed into a rose garden. But, sadly, together with the roses, the thorns of the deviant sects appeared in the garden. It was as if the hand of power had shaken that area in wrath, rotated it with intense vigor, and electrified the men of zeal. Through the centrifugal force of that movement, agreed many enlightened interpreters of the law, luminous scholars of hadith, holy memorizers of the Qur'an, gifted scholars, men of purity, and poles of sanctity were flung off and caused to emigrate to the remote corners of the world of Islam. It fired with enthusiasm all the people of Islam from east to west and awakened them to the treasuries of the Qur'an. Now we return to our subject. There are thousands of events that God's noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, predicted, and that happened as he foretold. Here we shall mention a few of them. The majority of those we will cite are agreed upon by the 6 well-known, most authentic books of hadith, particularly Bukhari and Muslim. There is a consensus in meaning concerning the reports, while others, on account of being verified by meticulous researchers, may also be considered to have this certainty. According to an authentic and certain narration, the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, said to his companions, "You will be victorious over all your enemies, will succeed in the conquest of Mecca, Khaybar, Damascus, and Iraq, Persia, and Jerusalem, and will share among yourselves the treasuries of the rulers of the greatest empires, the Byzantines and the Persians." He did not say this as a matter of conjecture or personal opinion. He said it as if he had seen it, and what he said came true as predicted. This was despite the fact that, at the time he foretold it, he had to migrate to Medina with a handful of followers, with the rest of the world, including the environs of Medina, hostile to him. He also repeatedly declared, according to authentic and certain narrations, that Abu Bakr and Umar would outlive him and be his caliphs, that they would act for God's sake and within the bonds of God's pleasure and that of the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, that Abu Bakr's rule would be short and that Umar would remain a long time to succeed in many conquests. Thus he said, "Incumbent upon you is following the path of those who come after me, Abu Bakr and Umar." He also declared, "The earth was laid out before me, and its eastern and western extremities were displayed to me. The realm of my community shall extend over whatever was laid out before me." And his words proved to be true. According to an authentic and certain narration, before the Battle of Badr, he pointed out one by one the places where the leaders of the Quraysh would be killed, saying, "Abu Jahl will be killed here, Utbah here, Umayyah here, etc., and added, "I shall kill Ubay bin Khalaf with my own hands." His predictions all proved to be true. Again, according to an authentic and certain narration, he informed his companions about what was happening in the celebrated Battle of Mu'tah near Damascus, at a distance of 1 month's journey from where he was, as if he were seeing his companions fighting in the battle, and said, "Zayd has taken the banner and been struck. Now Ibn Rawaha has taken the banner and been struck. Now Ja'far has taken the banner and been struck. Now one of God's swords has taken it." 2 to 3 weeks later, Ya'la bin Munabbih returned from the battlefront. In his presence, the noble prophet described the details of the battle, and Ya'la swore by God that what had taken place at the battle was exactly the same as the bringer of sure news, upon whom the blessings and peace, had described. According to an authentic and certain narration, the noble messenger, upon whom the blessings and peace, said, "After me, the caliphate will last 30 years. Then it will be rapacious monarchy. The beginning of this affair is prophethood and mercy. Then it will be mercy and caliphate. Then it will be rapacious monarchy. Then it will be arrogance and tyranny. He thus predicted the 6-month-long caliphate of Hassan and the period of the 4 rightly guided caliphs, and following that, the transition from caliphate to monarchy, and monarchies being plagued by intrigues and tyranny. This is exactly what later occurred. Again, according to an authentic narration, he declared, Osman will be killed while reading the Qur'an, and it may be that God will cause him to be dressed in a shirt at that time. His disposal may also be sought. These events, too, all took place exactly as predicted. Also, according to an authentic narration, while copying the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, Abdullah bin Zubayr tasted his blessed blood. Then the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, said, Woe unto the people for what shall befall them at your hands, and woe unto you for what shall befall you at their hands, predicting that Abdullah would lead the Muslims with extraordinary bravery, would face terrible attacks, and that because of him fearsome events would befall people. What he foretold came about exactly. During Umayyad rule, Abdullah bin Zubayr declared his caliphate in Mecca, heroically fought in many battles, until finally Hajjaj the tyrant attacked him with a large force, and following a fierce battle, the illustrious hero was martyred. Again, according to an authentic narration, he foretold the emergence of the Umayyad dynasty and the tyrannical rule of many of its monarchs, including Yazid and Walid, and Muawiyah's assuming leadership of the Muslims. He advised justice and gentleness and said, when ruling, act with forbearance. He predicted that the Abbasid dynasty would emerge after the Umayyads to remain in power for a long time, and said, the Abbasids will come forth with black banners and rule for much longer than they, the Umayyads, rule. All these predictions proved to be true. According to an authentic narration, the noble messenger, upon whom be blessings and peace, also said, Woe to the Arabs for the evil that has drawn near, suggesting the dreadful disorders to be caused by Genghis and Hulagu and their destruction of the Abbasid state. All this proved to be true. According to an authentic narration, when Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas was gravely ill, the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, said to him, It may be that you will be spared so that some may benefit by you and others harmed by you, thus predicting that he would be a great commander winning many victories, and many peoples would benefit from him entering the fold of Islam, while others would be destroyed by him. His words proved to be true. Sa'd led the Muslim armies, wiped out the Persian Empire, and caused many peoples to reach guidance, the path of Islam. Also, according to an authentic narration, when the Negus, the Abyssinian ruler, who had accepted faith earlier, died in the 7th year of the Hijrah, God's Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, informed his companions about it. He even performed funeral prayers for him. 1 week later came the news confirming the death of the Negus on the very same day as the Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, had said. According to an authentic narration, when the noble Prophet, upon whom be blessings and peace, was with his closest 4 companions on the top of Mount Uhud, or Hira, the mountain began to tremble. He said, Steady, for on you are a prophet, a veracious one, and a martyr, and foretold the martyrdom of Umar, Osman, and Ali. It too proved true. Now, O unfortunate, wretched man without heart who says that Muhammad, upon whom be blessings and peace, was only a clever person, and then closes his eyes to that Son of Truth. Of all his 15 different kinds of miracle, you have thus far heard only 100th part of one kind, that relating to his predictions which have the certainty of consensus in meaning, to discover future events through one's own perspicacity, and thus succeed in even 100th part of the prophets, upon whom be blessings and peace, predictions, one would have to be of the highest genius. Even if we merely called him a genius as you call him, could such a man have ever seen anything wrongly? Or could he have ever stooped to reporting it wrongly? Not to heed the word of such a 100-fold genius concerning happiness in this world, and the next is therefore the sign of a 100-fold madness.